Today we're going to do a teardown on a Bosch 1375 angle grinder. And we're going to change the brushes. What you'll need is a Phillips and a pick. If you don't have a pick, just grab a screw or something. Something with a pointy end helps. Make sure it's unplugged. Hopefully it goes without saying, but never can be too safe. So, just take the screwdriver, put it in here. Pull that cap off, just leave it right there. And what you'll notice is that there's going to be two little round springs on each side, and those are the brush retaining springs. So what we'll do is we'll just take the pick carefully, I don't know if you can see that, lift it right up and out, come to the other side, lift it right up and out, and your brushes are free. So they'll come out just like that, and then you'll have a little lead right here. So you'll just pull that right off. Now these brushes are maybe about halfway through their service life, and these are the actual Bosch factory brushes. To order them from Bosch, it'll run you about, I think it's about $15 to $20 a set, depending on where you order them from. Or you can just take the measurements, take the factory measurements, the length, the width, the height, whatever, and just buy a generic brush. They'll be literally a fraction of the price, and you can just buy a whole bunch of them. I do repointing for a living, so about every 3 weeks I have to change the brushes, and I just do it automatically. So these ones are just generics, but it just fits right in there. Oh yeah, make sure it has the same, because the other one, the lead comes off the right hand side there. So we'll put that back in, and then just push that on. Take the spring, put it back on there. Now it's spring loaded again, and you're ready to go. We'll do the same thing to the other side. Take them out. Get your brand new brush. Put it in. Use your pick to push it back on. So that's that. Gonna slide the cover back on. A good rule of thumb after you change the brushes is to run it a little bit without taxing the motor too much. So just plug it in and run it. For let's say about a minute. Okay, so it's plugged in. We're going to turn it on. I'll go ahead and let that run for about 5 minutes without any load on it, so that the brushes will properly seat to the commutator. And then it's ready for work pretty much. If you had any suspicions about your angle grinder having a bad bearing either at the back over here or at the front over here, I'm going to show you how to take them apart and take them out. While you have your brushes out, as you can see, there are no brushes here, no brushes there. They have to be out, because if you leave them in there, then you won't be able to pull this section out, because they'll be stuck on the commutator. Anyway, so we'll take off these 4 screws. We'll just pull the head off like that. And so what I do is I'll either take the pick or a flathead screwdriver, just put pressure right on the back of the commutator bar here, and it'll pop right out. So here's this piece over here, that little dust shield or air director, whatever you want to call it. that can stay in there. So there's a ball bearing right at the back over here. This one here is a 607. I don't have a puller that'll fit on here, but if the bearing is toast, then it's toast. I'm sure that you could probably just stick it in the vise and take a center punch and knock it out. It'll come right out. And the one on the top over here, you'll need a 10 millimeter wrench. I'm just holding it here in my hand. Take that nut off. Remember, keep all this stuff nice and clean. And then this this little washer slash seal, that's very important, keeps all the dust out. And then there's your bearing. Okay, the one on the top right here is a 608. That's a very, very, very common bearing. So 608, that's what they use in skateboards. They use them all over the place. So they're very cheap. I think I picked up like this whole container. There's 12 of them in there. I think I paid $10 or something like that. So not very expensive. Just generic parts, right? So that's that. This angle grinder is already toast, so I'm not going to replace the bearing. As you can see, the windings started coming apart here. So anyway, we'll put it back together. So first off, this goes on here. This rubber sleeve goes on the ball bearing, right on the back of it. Just stuff that back on the shaft there. And just take your pick, just push that rubber isolator down in there. Okay, very important. Put that washer back on. Put the gear on. Put the nut back on. You don't have to kill this thing, but get her nice and snug. That's that, and it's ready to go back in. Make sure it's lined up at the back there. You see, it's a little dust shield for the 607 bearing. Now the larger air hole that protrudes over here, that's the one that faces upwards. Okay, so that should go back together. Then I guess if you look in here and it's a little bit short on grease, you could probably put a little bit of extra grease in there, but not too much, right? You don't want to jam it up with grease. And that goes back together just like that. And we put the screws back in. So just to make sure, just spin it. That way you know nothing is bound up in there. One more thing I want to talk to you guys about is the brushes. So if you decide to go the generic universal route, you know, by taking the measurements and just ordering those brushes, you'll want to change them a little bit more often. Okay, they're not going to be the same quality as the Bosch. They'll perform about the same, but they'll wear out a little bit quicker. And what the Bosch does that's different from the generic is that about halfway through the brush right here, which is when you actually want to be changing them, there's actually like a little slug in there that will basically stop the angle grinder in its tracks before the set of brushes gets too short. So what happens when the brushes get too short? The spring rate changes. This little spring doesn't have the same amount of tension, and the brushes start to kind of go in on an angle, and ultimately you get a lot more arcing, and with a lot more arcing creates a lot more heat on your commutator, and more heat on your commutator, well, that'll melt it. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Just trying to keep stuff out of the garbage. And yeah, pretty simple. Anyways, thank you for watching. Bye for now.